but he tells her that they will sleep in the living room until the next day that he solves something. While watching his little sister asleep, thinking that being a responsible brother is not an easy task, Xiao shows up and tells Lin that it's a pity that this beautiful lady's brother is a scumbag. But Lin tells him that it is better that he does not let himself be seen by others since he is something that skips the rules of the world. And he tells him that he is right that he is too weak, so he decides to take out a letter. Xiao asks him if he was sure. To which, without further ado, 12 cards appear in front of Lin and without hesitation he chooses one. After taking it, a mission letter is presented in front of him, which tells him to become a reserve hunter within a month. If he completes that mission he will get an impeccable card. But if you don't complete it, you will lose your system. He is frustrated because he does not have the strength to be a reserve hunter. But he convinces himself to complete that mission, because if he loses the system he will have no chance to survive. The next day the little sister leaves for school, so after sending her away Lin thinks it's time to figure out her things. He summons Xiao and asks him how he can complete that mission. But he tells her that he does not have enough strength, so his fate is fateful. Lin, not very happy with this answer, tells him that if he does not help him, he will eat him. But they come to the conclusion that you can register in the pre-hunter selection. And now that he had the summoning card of the vampire he killed, he can disguise himself as an Imperial envoy to participate in the selection. The only weakness of this card would be that if someone has a weapon against vampires in the selection, he would be lost. They just take out their summon card. He summons his vampire self. Because he looked very perfect, he tells him to use the ranking card to change him a little and take away his weaknesses. They just start updating the vampire and Lin is surprised because the vampire looked too god. And because he had silver hair, he wanted to call him Kaneki. But if he does it would be a violation of rights for the story. So she just calls him Bai. Now he already had his vampire re-god in a letter. This one was a little weak because the proto with such a low level lowers his. They knock on the door and without further Lin goes. It was about some men with bad faces. They asked him if he was Lin, but Lin was scared in case it was revenge. But he quickly changes his aura to a good vibe and tells her that they have gone to renovate their house. They gave them a hotel reservation to stay with their sister for 5 days. Lin knew that this was a VIP reservation at the most prestigious hotel in the city. Much later he was with his sister on the way to the hotel. When they arrive, they are placed to eat from the very expensive buffet on site. But a rather scary man came to the place. Lin did not want to attract his attention. He thought that this man was waiting for them. And just after eating these left for their room. The guy stood behind them and followed them down the hallways. In front of the room, Lin defensively tells him that because he is following them. But the guy tells him that it's because he lives in front of them. To which Lin apologizes and enters his room. This was a very beautiful room, apart from her sister's panties. Lin sends his sister to take a bath because she smelled of otaku, but she wanted to play with him. That's how the hours passed, and this one left her asleep in her room. And so without further ado he sets out to try to practice a little something before the selection. While he was watching videos of Li Lang, he notices the noise of the guy's room door. When he looks out the window he realizes that he had gone out, wondering what he planned to do. The guy is placed to practice all 18 styles of his technique, so he planned to remember them all to practice the same. The next day a bird arrived which makes the deliveries. His little sister asked him about what he had bought this. But he takes her out of the place and stands to open the packages I buy to participate in the test. They were armored and explosive bullets, in addition to the most important a black iron level sword. So remembering the styles of the man's sword, he stands to practice. After practicing, he gains a piece of skill, so Xiao tells him that the more he trains, the more he will gain. So very motivated, I take up his sword determined to win all the shards until I become a sword daddy. Hours later he was quite exhausted in the hotel room. Mr. Yu arrived at the place, who is the owner of the hotel. This one wanted to say hi. They sit down to have a tea while they were chatting. After Mr. Yu left, the sister tells him that the Hunters Association sent them the reward for murdering that vampire. When I opened the box, I managed to see happily that it was a Desert Eagle, which can be converted into pistol and sniper gun. Unfortunately, these weapons need vital energy, so you can only use it when you reach the black iron level. Her sister was worried about the selection, but Lin tells her that she has nothing to worry about. Time passes and Lin starts training. While he was gaining many more fragments of the skill, he felt that he could not stop training. His sister the next day is surprised because he has not slept from so much training. But in a trance, he was just thinking about continuing to train. After gathering 300 fragments, he obtained the writing of the Great Wild Sword, but it was only the first part of it. This was a great skill, a rare skill of the sword type and the gold rank. Xiao tells him that he must get the second part of that technique to complete it. So Lin went to the guide to ask him if he was showing it to him, but he couldn't get to say anything because of the guy's attitude. The sister tells him that they must return to their house because it had already been repaired. We see that the guy with the sword was with Mr. Yu. He was asking him what he had seen in the prota, telling him that he was lucky to kill the vampire, and that with his life will it is obvious that he only has 2 months left to live. But Mr. Yu tells him that he must trust his good eye since he has always judged people well. But the guy asks him why he asked him to instruct the prota in swordsmanship. That is, people, the old man wanted to teach the prota swordsmanship in a secret way. Mr. Yu tells him that he has his own plans and that he shouldn't worry. The guide tells him that he is far from the same as Li Lang whom he recently met. But the old man asks him how long it took him to learn the first part of this technique. The guide tells him that it took him 18 hours a day for 103 days. To which the old man tells him that it took him that long to be talented. Also telling him that it only took the prota 3 days to learn the technique. Leaving the guy with his mouth open and wondering that how is it possible. While the old man tells him that nothing is impossible but that for now he should take 2 days off since they must leave. The next day, when Lin and his sister arrived at their house they were quite surprised, because literally their house turned into something else. Wondering if maybe this was his house. But it was impossible not because of the number. A guy welcomes them while asking if he was satisfied. But Lin tells him that such a fortress is not normal because the other houses were not renovated like that. They even made a second floor for it. So I was asking him his intention in doing this. But the guy tells her that such kindness is because he is a friend of Miss Li Lang. And wondering who Miss Ling really is, the guy tells him that she is the daughter of one of the vice presidents of the 7th Division of the Hunters Association, while his mother is the counselor of the government of the 7th Division. Without further ado the guy leaves while wishing them a good life. Lin and his sister were grateful that they were lucky in disguise. So already calmer this was going to concentrate on his selection affairs again. Since after 3 days the selection of reserve pre-hunters will begin.